You are very good in this book about bringing up things about nature. You could tell this person's been in the outdoors because you talk about elk poop and you talk about tarantulas and things like that. It's not overwhelming, but it's just enough to kind of sprinkle it throughout the book. And I thought you did a good job about that.
Well, I was trying to not necessarily do a travelogue, but help people develop an understanding and appreciation of the Buffalo River watershed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just a river. There's the valleys that feed into it, and the caves and the wildlife and the weather even. So I tried to tie all that together.
Hello, I'm Derek Cash with the North Little Rock Public Library System and want to welcome you to Meet the Author. Our guest today, Joe David Rice, has a long history of service for the state of Arkansas with a career spanning 37 years with the Department of Parks and Tourism. In that time, he served as Director of Tourism under 5 governors and spent countless hours exploring and advocating for the natural state. Today, he's joining us to discuss the thrills and mysteries of his first novel, An Undercurrent of Murder. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for being here.
Well, I really appreciate the invitation, Derek.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes. Why don't I start off by, introducing you to the audience by asking you, when you were growing up or even now, who are some of your favorite authors?
Oh man, a bunch. Of course, a lot of guys my age grew up on the Hardy Boys.
Yes.
And those were good. And then more contemporary would be people like Sue Grafton, who has that alphabet series I use for Alibi, etc. Patricia Cornwell, Peter Mayle, Griff Stockley, a local fellow, the late Griff Stockley, and C.J. Box. And you got to mention John Grisham, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever met John Grisham?
I have not.
I have. When I worked at Blue Mountain College in Mississippi, the president of the college got him to come to an orientation at the very beginning for the faculty, and he was gracious enough to attend. And so we got to shake his hand, etc. He's a very nice person. So.
He is from Northeast Arkansas. I do have some commonality with John. He and I are both from around Jonesboro.
Oh, all right. Okay. It's a small world.
It is a small world.
Okay. Let's segue into your book itself. Who is your publisher?
These are self-published through Amazon.
Okay. I ask that because there are potential authors watching this program, and we've had other authors who've self-published through Amazon, and just encouraging them to know what options are available. So Thank you for sharing that with us. Now let me ask you about the cover. How did you get the cover for this book?
It is a little strange. I give full credit to H.K. Stewart, my book designer. Mm-hmm. He had, I think, was walking along one of the creeks in Arkansas and took a photograph of it. And you can see the sticks or bones there with the reflection in the water. It just had a certain mysterious quality, and we thought it would work for the book.
Okay, all right. Are any of the characters in your novel, are they inspired by anyone you know?
They're sort of based on a collection of folks I've run into over my course of career at Parks and Tourism. I supervised 2 photographers and had a bunch of others on the ad agency staff. And so my character in there, who's a photographer, some of her traits come from them, but she's very much an individual. My protagonist is an advertising executive. And in my career, I hung around a lot of ad execs. So I picked up a lot of things there, but truth be told, he's probably an alter ego for a younger me. Much younger.
Okay. All right. What inspired you to write a novel?
When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time on the Buffalo. And then later on, early in my career, I actually owned a canoe outfitting business on the Buffalo River. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking to myself as I was transporting my customers up and down the river, this could be a setting for an interesting book. You don't have to go to New York or San Francisco or Chicago to have an interesting setting. You can do something in the Ozarks. Not many novels are set in the Ozarks. So that really inspired me to do that. And then, of course, you read in the news all the time about some of the drug trafficking going on, and that provides sort of the very spine of the book.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about canoeing. From the standpoint, have you done any? And you've answered that. But have you ever done any canoeing in rapids? It's in the novel, and I'm just curious. Have you done any on rapids?
Oh yeah, and I've swum when my boat tumped over. I've gone through rapids inadvertently outside my canoe. Yeah, in fact, years ago, I wrote the Canoeing Guide to Arkansas for the Parks and Tourism Office. So yeah, I know I've canoed most every mile in the state.
Okay. Well, it sounded like, in the novel anyway, it sounded like someone who knew how to do it. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to express what you knew, because it didn't sound like you Googled it. Like, this person probably has done it. And I just wanted to be sure. And so you've answered that question.
Well, thanks. Yeah, people that have floated. In fact, one of the guys that wrote the blurb for the book is the owner of the Buffalo Outdoor Center in Ponca. And he felt that it was pretty authentic. And, you know, when you're in heavy whitewater, you don't sit in the seats, you crouch down, you put your knees against the side of the boat, and you to lower your center of gravity. And that's what my people are doing, is they're escaping these bad guys that are after them.
Okay. All right. Yes, there are bad guys in this novel. And to me, I'm just making a comment. When they were in the cave, to me, that was the most frightening aspect of the novel. I won't give anything away to the audience, because I thought, someone's going to die. They're going to get trapped, or someone's going to die in the cave. And I won't reveal anything more, but you did a good job of at least making the hair on the back of my neck go up, because I just thought it scared me. So a little bit.
Thanks. Yeah. I will admit to spending more time my first or second year in college in caves rather than in classrooms, and nearly caught up with me in the long run. But I also, Derek, at one time owned the second longest cave in Arkansas. So I've spent hours underground.
Okay. You've answered another one of my questions. I was going to ask you, because you had to have been in a cave. Have you ever been in a cave that's got bats?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now, having said that, I was just curious, only because it just popped in my mind. Were you ever afraid of getting rabies from the bats?
No. Basically, I've been told, and I think this is correct, Arkansas is really too far north for the bats to have been subjected to the rabies problem. It's pretty much down in Texas. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we would crawl under bats all the time. In fact, they'd be stacked 4 and 5 deep in the cave ceiling, and you just didn't want to disturb them, because they're sleeping or hibernating.
Okay.
You just go right on and don't mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're friendly.
Okay. I think that's a nice, I'm sure the bat population will be applauding you for saying that they're friendly.
A lot more things to worry about in the cave. Like if your lamps go out, or you get turned around, or as in the case of this book, during a rainstorm, a portion of the passageway gets flooded.
Yes.
So, bats are typically the least of your problems.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think you do a very good job of making Gib a character you do not like.
Yeah.
I got easily annoyed with all those, I don't know if puns that he used. And what inspired you to do that and use puns, etc.? Yeah, because that takes a lot of imagination to make the words work the way they do.
Yeah, that was a challenge to keep coming up on different puns. And you're right, Gib is annoying.
I wish he'd died.
They say when you're writing, you need to have your characters somehow marked. So,
well, I don't write, so.
But that's Gib's sort of signature. Bad puns.
Okay.
And some other characters I've got in other books, they use long words or very technical terms.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun trying to come up with those puns and not make them too ridiculous. I don't think there are any cliches in there. I pretty much tried to make all of them original.
Okay, right. Well, you remember Bennett Cerf.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he was notoriously famous for his puns, etc.
He had a whole books of you probably have here in the library.
Yeah, quite possibly, yes. I think you hit the nail right on the head with Leslie. Elsie, that she had to use Elsie as her name because photography was a male-dominated profession, probably still is, and that if she put Leslie, they might think she's a woman, might not. And so, but is it still to this day, would you say it would be very difficult for a woman to get into photography?
Probably not. I should tell you, this book was in the works for 30 years before
Oh
I
my
got it
goodness.
published.
Okay.
So things have changed. I mean, right now up at Crystal Bridges, Annie Leibovitz, one of the world's most foremost photographers, has a
Yes.
great exhibition. So, and we've had female photographers at Parks and Tourism. So I think that has somewhat changed. But I tried to make Leslie a strong, independent woman that, she was out in the wilds by herself. She could handle herself. And I think that's one reason she and my protagonist sort of got attracted to each other.
Yes. Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you explained that because, like I said, or thought, I wanted to ask that question because, you really wonder in terms of, and it fits the story very well. You are very good in this book about bringing up things about nature. You could tell this person's been in the out of doors because you talk about elk poop and you talk about tarantulas and things like that. It's not overwhelming, but it's just enough to kind of sprinkle it throughout the book. And I thought you did a good job about that.
Well, I was trying to not necessarily do a travel log, but help people develop an understanding and appreciation of the Buffalo River watershed. It's not just a river. There's the valleys that feed into it and the caves and the wildlife and the weather even. So I tried to tie all that together.
Are you a photographer?
A wannabe.
Okay. All right. Because I don't know that she develops any pictures in the book, but I just thought, because it's so paramount in the book, I just thought, once again, I thought he had to have ridden a canoe and he's probably been in a cave. I thought he's got to be a photographer. In this instance, you totally had to use your imagination or at least consult with others. But that would have fooled me because I thought he's got to be a photographer as well.
I've had stuff published here and there, but I never made a living as a photographer.
Okay. All right. In your novel, the FBI comes up, but more towards the end of the book.
Yes.
Do you have any friends in the FBI? Do you have any experience with the FBI? Because I think anyone who's reading, I think one of the saddest things is if they're reading and say, oh, they would never do that, or that would not get said. A football player would never do this. I couldn't find anything that I thought the FBI would not do. So it sounded realistic. What is your experience with the FBI?
As far as I know, none.
Okay.
I don't think they have a file on me. I can hope. But I know one agent fairly well, but this book was written after he and I became acquainted. But he didn't call my bluff on anything.
Okay. All right. Okay, then we'll just leave it at that. Another character, only because it caught my eye, she doesn't play a major part, is Ellen. At the very beginning, she's Randy's wife. I thought at first she was a scheming...
She's Randy's sister.
Randy's sister. Okay, yes. That's right. Randy's not married. Yes, she's married to Gib. I thought she was a scheming woman because she had the waitresses with, I want to say, the low neck blouses so that she could raise get the men to bid higher at the auction. Yes. And but she didn't turn out to be that way at the end of the book. It was just something to do. And you turned me against her at the very beginning, then tricked Randy into having to go out with Gib on this camping trip. And I just didn't like her. At the end of the book, I did like her. So there was a breathing spell in the book.
Well, she was not above manipulating things to get her way.
Yeah. But you did it in good, but thank goodness she wasn't throughout the book. I think the reader would have, sometimes you can put books down. I'm just tired of reading this. She wasn't in it to overwhelm the reader. Thank goodness. Yeah. I would say thank goodness for that. Yes, you did a good job. I think a good job of balancing all the characters. Yes.
And I tried to keep the chapters short enough. They're about 7-8 pages. So people could read it for 5 minutes, put it aside, come back the next day or whenever. You and I both read these books where the chapters are 50, 60 pages long.
Oh, yeah, like a Dickens. Yes, or a Tolstoy. Yes, yeah. Joe, I want to give you an opportunity at this point to read a section to the audience to whet their appetite so that they will either buy the book or come to the library to use it.
Okay, maybe you can buy some extra copies.
Okay.
Well, Derek, I'm going to just start off with not the introduction, but the very first page
Okay.
of the Undercurrent of Murder. And I am not a dramatic reader. I'm
Okay.
going to have to give this a shot. Charles Dickens got it half right. It was the worst of times, period. I was pretty sure about that. I had tried everything possible, without success as it turned out, to avoid this Ozark mountain backpacking expedition with Dr. Gibb Yarberry. In fact, steering clear of Gibb had become one of my regular chores. He and I were not, shall we say, good buddies. Hardly. The one thing we had in common was Ellen, my younger sister and sole sibling. She was also his bride of 6 months, and that thought still made my skin crawl. So I pleaded fatigue rather than accepting invitations to their new place for dinner, and told a minor lie or two to avoid other opportunities for get-togethers, including Ellen's offer of coveted 50-yard line seats to a crucial, sold-out Arkansas Razorback game in Little Rock's War Memorial Stadium. I suspected Gibb had tolerated rather than supported Ellen's ongoing efforts to kindle a friendship between us. Once she made it clear that this male bonding experience, as she put it, was non-negotiable, my options and excuses disappeared. Gibb, I supposed, faced the same ultimatum. Learning that the camping trip would be my brother-in-law's initial foray into the wilds did not improve my attitude. Nevertheless, at Ellen's insistence, I spent several long and tedious afternoons helping Gibb prepare for our pending adventure. I advised him on purchasing suitable hiking boots, appropriate wool socks, and a first-rate sleeping bag. I gave him a list of other necessities, bought him a backpacking basics handbook, and warned him of the hazards we might encounter. Things like steep ascents, the occasional tick, and perhaps a tardy and temperamental rattlesnake slithering to its den to hibernate. And realizing that Gibb didn't get a lot of exercise, to urge him to walk at least 3 miles every day. During a moment of insanity, I even thought about asking him to join me in the weekly pickup basketball games at the YMCA. Fortunately, I regained my senses. The day before we left, I vowed to Ellen that I would make a genuine attempt to reconcile my differences with her husband. Plus, I foolishly guaranteed I'd bring him home in one piece. So that's the way it starts.
Yeah, well, that's a good introduction to what I think is a very good story.
Well,
so
you,
once
sir.
again, thank you so much for being here. Now, we want you to sell as many copies as you possibly can, and we want people to read this book. If they want to purchase a book, or if they want to contact you, tell the audience how they can contact you or how they can purchase the book.
Sure. A couple ways you can purchase it. They're available on the Amazon.com website. They're, I think, $12.99. Is that too commercial?
No, that's okay.
And you could get them on the Kindle editions for considerably less than that. Also, Wordsworth, the bookstore up in the Heights here in Little Rock, has them for sale. And if any readers want to take issue with any of the books, I can be reached at joedavidrice@yahoo.com. And I reply to every note I get.
Well done. Well done. All right. Thank you so much for being here. It has been a pleasure. And thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in reading An Undercurrent of Murder, you can check it out from the library or purchase it wherever books are sold, as he is advised. Also, you can find more information at our website, nlrlibrary.org. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great day, everyone.